Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. You're listening to a music discussion podcast about each and every song of Andrew McMahon. Today we're welcoming back a guest for his third song. He's joined us in the past to discuss Jack's Mannequin's Orphans and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness's VHS. Today we're going back to the wilderness again to revisit a track that had a brief time in the sun, but in my own opinion, and we'll talk more about this, it doesn't feel like it's been discussed much in the fan base since. So I want to reintroduce Kyle, the musician behind Patterns in Traffic and half of Harsh Lights. So welcome back, Kyle.
Thanks, Steve. Glad to be here.
Kyle, we've talked about the two songs as I've mentioned. It's been a bit, though. You've since won both of our Dear Jack fundraising Andrew McMahon trivia games these last few years, 23 and 24. So thank you for helping out with fundraising. We appreciate that, of course. But I am curious on like a funnier note. Are you just like super gifted at trivia all around, or is this like an Andrew McMahon specific type of trivia that you're good at?
I am awful at trivia, Steve. Really not good at general trivia. I've played it a couple times and rarely contribute anything meaningful. But
that's hard to believe.
Yeah, I've always had a passion for music and a deep love of albums, so I tend to retain a lot of otherwise useless information about albums and song titles and track lists and that sort of thing. So it only comes in handy in a very niche scenario, such as Andrew McMahon trivia.
Gotcha. So like pub trivia is not like you don't excel there. Like you don't go and like win every week or something.
I do not. No.
Okay.
If only.
Yeah. Well, I've got another place for you to check out. So shout out to the High School Never Ends podcast. They do a Jeopardy game like once a year lately. And I feel like you'd probably do very well with that based on what you just said and what I know, because you're into that sort of music and you're good at music trivia. So I feel like you'd like blow them away.
I have heard their Jeopardy games, and yeah, I would love to play.
Yeah.
They definitely get into some bands that I'm not familiar with.
Right.
And I'm not an encyclopedia of Blink lyrics, but I definitely enjoy listening to the episodes.
That's right. He always does a finish the Blink lyric or name the Blink lyric round. But that's been cool. Like, so you've been on a few times for the trivia, a couple times for the trivia, a couple episodes. This is your third song episode. So for those of you who aren't aware, Kyle, again, is a musician. He is Patterns in Traffic, named after a Jack's Mannequin lyric. That's episode 60. And then episode, 70-something, we talked about VHS. So it's been a little while because now we're on episode 101. Can't believe it's saying out loud. But so Kyle, what's going on in your current creative landscape? Like where are you at right now with music? I know you keep busy as a family man with kids and you work a full-time job. So like, what do you have going on right now musically?
I've just been chipping away at this third Patterns in Traffic record for the past going on 4 years now since my last album was released in 22. Mm-hmm. I went back to the last time I was on the podcast, which was March of 24, and I had said the album was fully recorded at that time, and I remember thinking for sure it would be out by the end of 24. Uh-huh. And now here we are in 26, and it's still not done. But I'm closing in on wrapping it up in the final mixing and mastering stage now, and I'm super proud of it. I think it's by far the best thing I've ever done, and I'm excited to start sharing it with people, and I feel confident in saying it'll be out in 26, but don't kill me if I don't come through on that.
Well, that is awesome. I'm really excited to hear that you're so excited about the music that you're making right now. That's just a cool thing to hear from any musician. In an update that, if you don't mind, I'll share, but you have one of the songs mixed and ready to go right now, right?
That's right. Yeah, the song that I would consider like the first single, what I would like, the song that I would like to introduce people to the album with is the first one that I've completed the final master, and yeah, it's ready to roll out. So I'm not planning on rolling that out officially until the rest of the album's ready and I kind of know what the timeline looks like for when I can get the full album out. But yeah, I have one song in the bag.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I've had a chance to listen to it, and I really appreciate you sending it over because that was a cool listen. I enjoyed it. In fact, I gave it the car test this morning. I wanted you to know because I don't know if you do the car test, but that's essential for my listening for any music that's important to me. I've got to have the headphones test, and I've got to have the car test. Do you do that?
Oh yeah, the car test is very important and often very heartbreaking. I will say,
Oh, really?
yeah, there are many, many times where you'll get a mix that sounds great in the headphones, sounds really nice in the speakers down here in my studio, and then I put it on in the car and it sounds real bad. So
Oh,
the car tends to reveal any little flaws in your mix. So that's really like the last test. And that's one of the things I do before I consider a song finished is you got to listen to it on a bunch of different speakers, the car, the phone, unfortunately a lot of people are going to be listening on their cell phone. So you got to give it
that's
the
true.
phone test as well, make sure it translates well there. But
I never would
uh,
have thought of that, but yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Yeah, I listened off my phone like during my workday all day. So that's the way I first listened to your song, like was on my phone. So
Yep. So yeah, you got to make sure it translates to all those different listening environments before you're fully happy with it. So it's
okay.
tricky.
Yeah, it sounds tricky. It sounds like there's a lot to the process, especially when you're like as I think you described in a past episode, you're an in-house one person. You do all the writing, the recording, the producing. It's just you. So it sounds like a lot of work, and I understand why it takes so long to put something like this together. And I understand you wanna release something that you're really proud of every time.
Yeah, I mean, I knew going in that this was my strongest batch of songs, and I
Hmm.
wanted to do right by them as much as I could. So I felt like I really needed to level up my production game, as much as possible to present these songs as well as I possibly could. And I think I'm finally getting to that point. But there's a lot of learning involved in the process, and I think it's coming out sounding a lot better than anything I've done before.
Awesome. Well, the song we're talking about today, I think I can draw some kind of comparison between what I listened to in your song and the Andrew McMahon song that we chose to talk about today. So we'll come back to the subject of that for sure. Well, let's go ahead and give it a listen right now.
The summer of routine, it held me down. I saw you play volleyball on the beach.
Well, you just heard Patterns in Traffic's brand new song, Carolina, that'll be out later this year. Thank you so much for bringing that to the show, Kyle. And we will talk more about that as the show goes on tonight. But I'm glad we're getting the chance to catch up at this point in time. And we're also catching up a bit, believe it or not, on Upside Down Flowers tracks. So you may not have noticed as a listener of the show, but I feel like we've been real light on Upside Down Flowers tracks on this show. And I don't know what that's about. It's not intentional. Typically, I let guests choose a song. Sometimes there's some back and forth about, oh, here's some songs I'd like to discuss, and I'll say, how about we do this one, or vice versa. Or I'll say, hey, I was thinking about these songs, and the guest will say, okay, I choose that one. But somehow, a lot of Upside Down Flowers tracks haven't come up. In fact, Kyle, you may know that Marcy, my wife, and I discussed Paper Rain last month. But that was the first Upside Down Flowers track we had discussed in 60 episodes, which...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just surprising. So when we, chatted a few months ago about maybe talking about the song we're talking about today, I was like, wow, that's going to be the first Upside Down Flowers track in a long time. But then Marcy jumped in front of you. Sorry about that. With okay. Paper Rain. But I'm glad we get to talk about the song we're going to talk about today, Blue Vacation, because we're gonna grab another one of those UDF tracks. So, but I can only assume it's reflective of these choices. That like what we talk about is reflective of a recent body of work that's just been maybe overlooked. I mean, there was the Tilt at the Wind No More excitement. There was the SoCo reunion. There's been the Jacks. There's been the Cruises. And I feel like some of the Upside Down Flowers tracks have been, I don't want to say left behind, but just like left in limbo, right? Like we don't hear them a lot at the shows right now. And I think it might have to do with that. So again, today we're going to talk about Blue Vacation. That's the song that Kyle chose. And listeners might be surprised to learn that Kyle and I, again, chatted about this song months ago, and it's mostly a coincidence that the time is right now. I'll say this episode's going to come out a week before we're on the cruise. Just, name alone, right? Blue Vacation, if nothing else. So it's just kind of like a sort of a coincidence, but also I think, Kyle, remind me, I think we also chatted about that, right? About how that would be, I think I said, well, that would be kind of fitting, right? To talk about that right now.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about it, and originally, I think I was kind of hoping I could have the album done, my album done, before I came on, so we could chat a little bit about it. And finally, I kind of threw in the towel on that, and I said, I'm ready to do the pod. Let's get together and chat, and just happened to line up with the cruise. So, yeah, nice timing.
And Kyle, you'll be joining us for the cruise this year, right?
Yeah.
So that's super exciting.
Yeah, that's a recent development. I really did not anticipate going on the cruise, but I'll tell you, I really enjoyed the episodes that you did covering the last one, and I had serious FOMO. It really sounded like a great time, and got to talking about it with my wife a couple weeks ago, and yeah, we figured out how to make it happen. So yeah, I'm going to be on the cruise. I'm super excited about it.
That's incredible. And I've got to point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the timing that you decided to go on the cruise had what was close to the timing of the Rocket Summer being announced as a stowaway. Did that have anything to do with your decision?
It might have. Like, I am not a huge Rocket Summer fan, but I'm familiar with, quite a few Rocket Summer songs.
Okay.
And I did see the news, and I remember thinking like, oh, like the Stowaway is actually a band that I'm familiar with that would be really cool to see live. I've seen them live before, opening for other acts. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I think the thing that it kept eating away at me because it wasn't sold out. I think the first one sold out pretty quickly.
Immediately, yeah. Yeah,
and so it was kind of easy for me to say, well, it's sold out. I'm not gonna make it, and kind of put it out of my mind. But the longer this one went on, still having cabins available, I kept looking at the lineup and thinking, oh man, that would be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should hop in while I have the opportunity, and yeah, finally took the plunge.
Okay. Interestingly, in the past 2 song episodes that you've been on, we have actually discussed, without knowing what this lineup was, we couldn't have possibly known back then years ago, we've discussed at least 2 of the bands that are going to be on there together, which I found quite a coincidence. It's just a cool coincidence. We've mentioned we've talked about seeing the Maine live to get not seeing them together, but we've talked together about both seeing the Maine live, and we've also talked about seeing Floor live because I saw them open for Andrew and you saw them open for the Maine, right?
Yeah, I saw the Maine and Floor together. I didn't even remember that, but yeah, that's cool. They'll both be on the boat.
All right, so this is exciting, right? It is mid-February. We're going on this cruise in a couple weeks, and then now we're talking about a song called "Blue Vacation" by Andrew McMahon, and I wanna get into it. So, the sound of this song definitely popped out at me on this album as I listened through it the first time. I remember that because I feel like this song is unique compared to the rest of the album. There's a way I would describe Upside Down Flowers to people who haven't heard it, or maybe if I was just casually talking about Upside Down Flowers, that I feel like the way I describe the album in general, I wouldn't describe this particular song maybe. It's a pretty unique sounding song in comparison to the rest of the album, I would say. Most of the album to me is a bit more acoustic than electric, a bit more ballady than rock and roll. So this track kind of stands out to me, almost like it could have stood as a separate release from the album because it's really got a little bit more of an energy and like a beat that I don't feel like is present in a lot of the songs on this album. I love this album, by the way, but I also have a very distinct memory of the idea of the song that I want to share with you, Kyle. This is related to the cruise, by the way, the last cruise, ironically. The day after the presidential election, the last presidential election in the United States, and we were about to get, right, remember, we were about to get on the ship at that time. But the day after the presidential election, we had this team meeting at work, and the mood was a little uncomfortable, but everybody was feeling their own way about the election. And you don't want to get into politics at work with who knows who on the team. I was gearing up for the Holiday from Real cruise. Like I was super excited, obviously, but like also feeling a certain way about the election. And so the Holiday from Real again was leaving in a few days. So here I am in this weird spot, feeling a certain way about the election, more excited than there are words for to get out of town and celebrate life with thousands of like-minded individuals. And I remember when someone brought up my upcoming cruise on that call, I said, yes, I'm looking forward to a blue vacation. And my boss was like, okay, we're moving on. And I didn't realize like what exactly I said. And I was like, oh, I get it. I didn't really mean it, but maybe I don't know. So I feel like my boss like shut it down as if I was getting political, which is kind of funny. Like I just wouldn't. But anyway, I'll always remember that about this song now. And then I was like, oh no, my Andrew McMahon has a song called Blue Vacation. They're just like nobody cared. Like they don't know who he is. My team does know since now about my music cruises because we got to do I think I mentioned this on the show recently. We got to do a presentation about our passion, like just for a fun like holiday party, anything we wanted. And I told them all about the music cruise and like had pictures from the Holiday from Real and everything. But so like, I think they understand it more now, but it like probably came off weird in November 2024 by saying that.
That is funny. I was going to bring this up later, but I kind of had the same theory about this song. And
yeah.
I don't think I agree with it anymore after reading some of the quotes that we've passed back and forth before recording. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I know Upside Down Flowers came out in 2018, which is a year into the first Trump presidency.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely kind of had a theory that Blue Vacation was referring to kind of escaping from that regime and what it stands for. I know that both Andrew and Butch Walker, who was the producer on the album, both lean pretty liberal. So I thought maybe that was a secondary meaning here, but
yeah, I do get that. We'll definitely get into it. I get the impression he doesn't want to say that. Yeah, but I agree with everything you just said. It feels like a secondary meaning, especially knowing where Andrew and Butch probably lean. We can guess pretty well based upon what we've heard from them. Like I don't really want this song to be attached to that weird memory at work, but it is now. It's just in my brain. But yeah, there's no way that anybody at work knew that my favorite artist who I follow on cruises and across the country sang a song called Blue Vacation, nor cared, but I had to say something, and that was probably stupid of me. It was probably like a subconscious, like, again, I think I was just like, you have your caffeine in the morning and you're excited about something and it's just like, oh, I just want to insert this into there, but not the greatest. It was kind of awkward, to be honest.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Blue Vacation is track 3 on Upside Down Flowers, and the album is, of course, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. The song was officially the third pre-released single on October 19th, 2018, as you pointed out, the 2018 date. It was about a month before the full album came out on November 16th, 2018, but I honestly don't remember this as a single. Did this come to you as a pre-release single? Do you remember that or not? I don't.
I do remember that, actually.
Okay.
I remember this song being released as a single. And I remember, I think Ohio and Teenage Rock Stars were released before this.
Got it.
As singles from Upside Down Flowers. For whatever reason, those two songs didn't grab me immediately, which is weird to think about now because I really love both of those songs. Mm-hmm. But when I heard Blue Vacation, I thought it was a really interesting sound for Andrew and something a little different, and I was really excited to hear the album after I heard Blue Vacation. That one really hooked me right away.
Wow. I'm going to say it right now. I felt kind of the opposite, like with the songs you just mentioned in particular. Ohio hooked me in. I think there's a reason for that. I think we all know. I live in Ohio.
Yeah.
Just I felt connected. But I do love the song, and I still do. And Teenage Rock Stars felt like nostalgic and like connected me to, what I know about Andrew and something corporate and all of that. So I felt really connected. Blue Vacation I didn't feel connected with right off the bat. So yeah, interesting that you felt the opposite. I think that's cool though. I love that we're having this conversation about this song because I want to hear more about what connected this for you to like what made you excited about this particular song. So and I think that's going to come out. So since you remember, you may or may not know the answer to this, but do you feel like this song was used to promote the album at all? Was it like a pre-release single in the way that to get people like you, like it got you excited about it? Was it used in that way, do you think?
I feel like it was. I feel like the rollout for Upside Down Flowers, I don't really remember there being a lot of fanfare around the pre-release singles. Mm-hmm. That could have there could be a lot of reasons for that, depending on what the label was pushing and what kind of money they were putting into pushing these songs. But
right.
I feel like it was maybe overshadowed by Teenage Rock Stars in Ohio. I don't know if it was as easy to find as they were when they were first released, but I definitely remember seeing it and seeing some stories written about it and things like that when it first came out.
I was curious, and the reason I asked is again, I think I'm biased because of what I said a little while ago, and that's I was so excited by those other two singles, and I loved them, and I still do. And I think the timing, I don't know, we've talked about this before, like it's hard, I don't really understand like the strategy behind dropping a song like a week before an album comes out. I feel like I should get that, but like, and then it kind of gets overshadowed, in my opinion, maybe, by like a full album drop a week or two later after a single comes out. So maybe this was a month. I don't know. I probably should look at the date. Yeah, it's like a month, I guess. But maybe that was it. It was just like, I felt like I had Ohio and Teenage Rock Stars, and then I had Upside Down Flowers, and Blue Vacation was just on there. I don't know. Do you feel like that works for fans like us? I know you and I have had conversations about like we like the full album. That's important to us. But there is something to be said about, and Andrew and I have talked about this on the show, where it's a big risk to just drop 10 or 12 songs on people and expect them, they're going to sit down and listen to 10 or 12 songs, all of them. So like, do you think that's a good strategy as an artist to drop out singles like maybe once a month? Like I follow American authors. I love American authors. And they did this thing where like they basically dropped a song a month for like a year. And then the album came out and it was just like almost all of those songs were already released by that point.
I'm seeing that more and more where artists will go that route where they'll release a song a month or just kind of drip feed singles as they complete them, and then they may or may not compile them into an album when they're done.
Right.
For me, like, it drives me crazy to have loose singles out there that aren't attached to any album, because I feel like I'm, very much an album listener. And so if artists have like a couple songs floating out there that aren't on any of their albums, generally just never listen to them because I'm never reaching for a single song. But
thank you for saying that, because I feel the exact same way as you just said.
It's a me problem, but
Right.
I think that you and I and probably most of the people that listen to this podcast are people that care about music and probably are interested in the album format, and I think that's somewhat rare nowadays. Most people are more singles listeners, and they don't listen to full albums. They may not even have allegiances to particular artists. It's more just, I like this one song, and they don't really need to dive deeper than that one song. Whereas, people that are really into music and connect to it in a deep way, if they like a song, then they'll go look up the artist and listen to more. But I think a lot of people just kind of put on a playlist and, go with that and don't look to dive deeper into a specific artist or album. And since that's kind of the current norm among most
the
music
marketing
listeners, yeah, that's kind of the benefit of releasing singles. When you have a brand new song, you can get it put on Spotify playlists and get it promoted and all those kind of things. Try to get it in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
And once the album's out, it's kind of old news. You don't have anything new to push. You put everything out there, and then it's just up to the listener to go listen to it. And unfortunately, I don't know how many people really do look for those full albums, but yeah, it just seems like there's this.
Well, damn it, I do. I'm like, I just mentioned American authors. I guess that's another example of like, I haven't listened to their last album in a while. I gotta go back and listen to that full album now. And you and I chatted about Eve 6 recently. I love some of the Eve 6 albums, not all of them. And apparently there's an album I missed because I don't think I've ever heard their last album. So I'm like, okay, put that on the list. I've got to go back and listen to that. Now, will I? I mean, I'd like to think so, but also what you said is true. So we forget, right? Like they fall by the wayside, and it's like, will I ever make it to that Eve 6 album? I have to be consciously thinking about it when I open Spotify one day. So
yeah, it's we're all busy. We've got a lot on our minds and a lot competing for our attention, and even when you sit down to listen to music, there are so many competing priorities and different things that you could put on. Like, for example, Dog Problems by The Format is probably one of my top 5 albums of all time.
yeah,
Absolutely love it. And I have not listened to their new album yet, which I feel great shame over the fact that I was so excited that The Format was putting out a new record, and I still haven't listened to it. And I have it on vinyl. I need to listen to it, but I just haven't taken the time yet to sit down and listen to it. And it's almost one of those things where you hype it up so much. You're like, I need to be able to sit down and focus for an hour and really take it in. And it's hard to find that time sometimes.
I can't tell you how much I identify with what you just said, because I feel like it's an experience to listen to the new album by the band I love. Now, admittedly, I'm not nearly as big of a fan of The Format. I'm kind of a newer to as you probably know, I just started listening to them a couple of years ago, really, like diving into their 2 albums. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. I understand what people are talking. I think you were one of the people who recommended them to me a couple of years back. And I'm like, yeah, they are as good as people have said. I don't know why I've never dove in before. And then same, when that new album came out, I was like, well, I've got to have time to sit down and listen to it. Like, I don't want it to be while I'm working. I don't want it to while I'm unfocused. And I just never got around to it. Now it's been like, what, a month? It's been out a month. And I'm like, yeah, I just have to sit down and listen to it. I don't know what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, too many priorities in life. We need more time to just sit around and listen to music.
Yeah, I have this, I live in this fantasy world in my head sometimes where I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs and I'm just going to put on, whether it be, I have a record player, I have a CD player, and I have that stereo connected to streaming, so I could do any of those. I have this fantasy where I go in downstairs my basement, my man cave, and I'm like, I'm going to sit and I'm just going to listen to music. But I never do that. I don't just go listen, like sit in a chair and listen to music. Like I picture like myself as like a slightly older gentleman, like sitting in my rocking chair, listening to my favorite CD or vinyl or streaming, whatever, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's music's in the background of everything I do. Everything I do, but
yeah, that's why the car ride is so awesome. If you get a long car ride by yourself, you can really focus on some music and not have any distractions. That's the good stuff.
I'm so glad you just said that. Guess what? I have an hour and 50-minute ride to my job. I've got to go somewhere for work tomorrow. Nearly 2 hours. I'm listening to that new Format album. That's what I'm doing.
That's a good idea. I should do that on my way to work too. Let's
I have
do that.
plenty of time. I'm going to estimate, I haven't listened to it, I'm going to estimate it's 45 minutes. Usually they are. And that'll be like nearly half my drive. I'm going to do it. I'll report back.
Excellent.
All right, so regarding Blue Vacation, let's get into some production notes. So the song was written by Andrew McMahon, produced by Butch Walker. Andrew played the piano, and as far as I understand, Butch played the rest of the instruments. This album was basically a collaboration between Butch Walker and Andrew, which you mentioned earlier. And in a Cryptic Rock interview from 2018, the interviewer, Jeannie, asked Andrew about the recording process for Upside Down Flowers in general, and Andrew had this to say, so this is a quote. The beauty of this record and the way it came about and how it was recorded was that it was a pretty streamlined workflow. I would write these songs, in one sense, very quickly. I'd spend a day just kind of hatching whatever the initial meat of the song was. And from there, I would jump onto something else, and then I would just sort of flow back and forth over the songs. When it came to the actual process of recording the songs, though, it was just me and Butch. It made it possible for me to play the song down on the piano and just sing it. We'd meet up in the morning in his studio in Santa Monica, and I would lay the song down and really have this story laid bare there. He would hear the words and hear the song in its purest form, and I think when it came to his initial sketch of the production, I would lay the music down, and then whether I would sneak home for the afternoon or just hang out and work on other stuff, he'd put the sketch together. I think he was being informed just by the basic piano and vocal performances. I think that allowed for the more lyrical moments even in the production. End quote. It's always been interesting to me how much it sounds like Butch Walker was involved in this album. Like, I feel like, not a co-write, it doesn't say that he helped write the songs, but he wasn't just the producer, he was the instrumentalist, and like I feel like he fleshed out a lot of those music choices, like the instrumental choices in the song. He basically took these songs and then filled them out. Being a Butch Walker fan that you are, because we've definitely had our fair share of chats about Butch Walker, even in more recent times. Being a musician and producer yourself as well, Kyle, do you hear Butch Walker in the sound of this song, Blue Vacation, when you listen? Is this like, I feel his hands on this song?
In certain ways, yes. It's not super obvious. It sounds like Andrew really wrote the songs and the lyrics and melodies. I do think the tag at the end of the chorus, where he kind of does a little vocal run with the word vacation, that sounds very Butch Walker-y to me. And I wonder if I do feel like Butch does that kind of thing in a lot of his songs. And I do wonder if that was maybe influenced by Butch or, maybe a suggestion. But for the most part, it's a very Andrew McMahon kind of song and melody. I do think the guitar solo is a Butch solo through and through. It's got that it's a little off kilter. It's real fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much the kind of solo you would hear in a Butch Walker song. But yeah, I don't think his influence is painfully obvious. I do think, they decided to do something a little different with Andrew's voice on this album. And that carries through the whole record. And I think that was definitely, I'm sure, influenced by Butch's production. And I'm sure, Andrew had to sign off on it and they came to a decision together. But I'm sure that was influenced by Butch, just the way that Andrew's voice sounds on Upside Down Flowers.
Like, how would you describe that sound? Because I have a way I describe it throughout this record. And I don't know if I can't remember if we've talked about this before, because it's like, I've talked about this, I know, with my wife, and she's noticed it too. So I know what you're talking about, but do you have a way that you'd describe that? Like what they did with his vocals there?
I would say there's a pretty prominent delay on his voice. So you're kind of hearing, and it's a little different than echo. Like, it's not like his voice is echoing and kind of fading out. It's almost like there's two Andrews. Like, you hear him and then you hear him again right after, like on a delay. So it's almost like two voices singing almost in unison, but one's just behind the other. So it gives it kind of a more full sound. It's kind of takes one vocal and makes it into two.
Oh, okay.
So
No, that's
yeah.
okay. I'm glad to hear that from you because that makes more sense to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd say there's a pretty prominent delay on his vocals, and then a lot of reverb, very reverb heavy, probably multiple different types of reverbs on his vocals at once that creates that sound. It's just yeah, pretty unique between the delay and the reverb, but that's mostly what I hear. And then there are a lot of parts where he's layering his vocals, which is a very common technique in pop music to layer your vocals. It's just singing multiples of the same thing and just thickening the sound. So it all comes together for a pretty unique sounding vocal on this record. It sounds pretty different than any of his other albums.
I agree. It definitely sounds different than any of his other albums, what they did with it. And you might laugh, and feel free if you want to laugh at me from what I'm about to say, because I would describe it differently. I don't have the technical aspects down. So that's why I was kind of like laughing to myself while you're talking. And I'm sorry about that, because you have such like a grab on like what that actually is. And here I am over here like, it sounds like his voice is watery or something. Like he's talking through water.
Yeah, no, I can totally hear that. Yeah, that's that like it's like he's like swimming in reverb. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
We went as far as to, and I feel bad saying this, but we went as far, like my wife and I years ago when this came out, being like, there's one song where he sounds like he's like down in a sewer drain. and I guess that makes sense, right? Like it mixes the two things we just said. It's like watery, but also echoey up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It has bothered me at times. I like the songs on this album. I like this song. Yeah, I feel like it's laid on a little thick at times, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I've heard that criticism. I remember seeing people say like, "Oh, Andrew has such a great voice. Why do they kind of mask it behind all these effects?" And I can see that.
Right.
It's definitely a artistic choice, but I can see that argument.
Yeah, even in my very favorite songs on the album, I would have the same, some of the same criticisms. But you introduced me recently to a song called ATL by Butch Walker, which somehow I missed. Like, I've listened to his whole catalog, but some of the albums I haven't given as much attention to, per what we talked about earlier, right, with albums, I think it's off of Sycamore Meadows, maybe. Is that, like,
yes,
off the top of your head?
Correct.
Okay, which I haven't given enough time to. I love two of his Marvelous 3 albums in the late 90s and early 2000s, but then it really wasn't until The Spade that like brought me back around and got my attention again, which I'm going to guess is like 2010. I've mentioned Afraid of Ghosts to you on the show before, and I've mentioned on the podcast, like I love that album. It's a very like light singery songwritery album produced by Ryan Adams. Some of those songs just really speak to me, and I know they do too. You've covered one of the songs from that album, but ATL that you introduced me to kind of reminds me of that album. I'm really into Stay Gold. I'm really into American Love Story, which was one of his last albums, his 2020 release. Do you have like a favorite Butch album, a couple favorites, or like Butch songs that you're like, this is the reason I love this guy?
I don't think I could possibly do individual songs. There's too many good ones.
Yeah.
But I always say, no matter what mood I'm in, what kind of music I'm looking for at a given point in time, like there is a Butch song for that. No matter what I need, I can find a Butch song that fits what I'm looking for in that moment. And he's covered so many styles over his career. None of his albums really sound the same.
Nope.
So yeah, it's just a really talented guy, and that his music really speaks to me and has for a long time. And yeah, I'd consider him my favorite songwriter. So
wow, that's really high praise.
Yeah, and that's why just how much ground he's covered over the years, and I just love all of it. But yeah, I can do favorite albums. So Sycamore Meadows, the song with ATL on it. That's the first Butch album that I really fell in love with in college, and then I went backward from there and listened to everything he'd released up to that point. But that's still my favorite album by him. He actually lost his house to the wildfires in California around that time. I think it was like 2005. So a very emotional album, but also with some really fun, lighthearted songs. And yeah, that's kind of what I love about him too, is he has this like sarcastic humor that comes through in a lot of his lyrics. But he can also create these just completely heart-wrenching, emotional songs. Like ATL is just one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. One of my favorite songs of all time for sure. And that's the closer on Sycamore Meadows.
Okay.
And then I'd say probably Letters. Got a lot of his most well-known singles. Probably the closest he's come to like pop rock or even like a pop punk kind of genre.
Mixtape is on there, right? His song called
Yes,
Mixtape?
that has.
Yeah.
Yep, it has Mixtape. It has Don't Move, which is another really great single.
Yeah.
A lot of really good stuff on that. So that's another one I would highly recommend. And then Afraid of Ghosts, like you mentioned. It's kind of an emotional gut punch at the end because he wrote it after his father passed. But
Yeah.
super
That's a
engaging
rough
record.
listen. It's a rough
Yeah.
listen, but like sometimes I want that. Like that's what I'm looking for. I just want to like feel what the songwriter's feeling, and that album makes me feel it.
Yeah, and that one was cut live to tape, so it's kind of got a raw live feel, really cool atmosphere on that album. There's a song on there called "Bet on Fire" that his when he performs that one live, it's like a religious experience, super emotional. He gets really into that one, so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think those three, and then The Spade, like you mentioned, and Stay Gold, those are a couple more kind of fun raucous rock records with a nice dose of his humor.
Yeah.
So both really strong if you're looking for higher energy stuff.
Yep.
So I probably named about half his albums there.
Yeah, you did. That's okay.
Like Sycamore Meadows, Letters, Afraid of Ghosts, those are probably my top three. And then the Spade and Stay Gold are right up there as well. But you can't go wrong with any of them. You're just going to get something a little different from each one.
Yeah, I love that the last two were concept albums. It was super interesting what he did with American Love Story. Glenn, I didn't get as much into, and again, it's probably one of those I should put on my list. Go back and give it another shot, because I probably didn't give it the attention it deserved, which is his last one. But American Love Story is pretty deep with me. Like I do return to that one, regularly, I would say. So
yeah, that one's really interesting. I remember he did a lot of press around the time that album was released, just talking about the concept of it and kind of explaining. I know he had said that he kind of recorded that one just for fun, kind of for himself, and didn't really plan on releasing it originally. And then during COVID, he decided to put it out.
It was interesting timing, and not a time that you could go out and promote and tour an album at all, that he put it out. But he did a re-record, like a live recording of it, right? And then actually put that out too. So he played all the songs. Yep. There's a video of it, and then he put it on Spotify as well. So that, very cool what he did with that. And that one sticks with me a lot. And now he's apparently just joining the band Train and touring with them. So like, guy does what he wants. He's just like, I'm a musician and I just do what I want when I want. And I love that about him too. So he wants to go play music with Train. He wants to record his own music. He wants to join back up with his Marvelous 3 band from the late 90s. Like he does it all. What he wants when he wants. So it's cool that he has that.
Seems like he kind of burned out on the cycle of recording a record and going and touring and going back and recording another record. And it seemed like he was at a point in his life where he was ready to just go shred on guitar and not have to worry about writing songs and recording stuff. And so it seems like he's having fun with Train right now.
That's awesome. Let's talk about live history of Blue Vacation. Let's bring it back around to Blue Vacation. So Setlist FM, last I checked, has this song listed 40 times. And I bet you can guess the last time this song's probably been played, if I were to press you a little bit. Can you guess the last time that we've heard Blue Vacation from Andrew McMahon?
If I had to guess, and based on the cheating a little bit, because there's some links here to some times he's played the song live, but I'd have to say maybe the last Holiday from Rio would be the last time we heard it.
Well, you'd have that right. Yeah, so as far as I know, that was the last time it was played. You do have to go back a few years to find any record of it live before that. In fact, I phrased this a certain way that Setlist FM has it listed 40 times, but I know it's been played at least 41 times, and here's why. And I sent you this link as well. On the Rock Boat in 2021, Andrew, Mikey, Bobby, and Morgan, who was playing with them at the time, their keyboardist, acoustic guitarist, violinist, was with them at the time. Anyway, the four of them got on stage with Sister Hazel during the Sail Away set on the Rock Boat, which is relevant to me because I was there. I was in the room, so to speak. I was on the pool deck We were walking around. We're not the biggest Sister Hazel fans. It was a sail away show. It was our first rock boat. We were kind of like exploring. And then we didn't know that he invites artists that are headlining or whatever, or some artists that are playing the boat. We didn't know that Sister Hazel like invites them to play a song throughout the entirety of their sail away set. So that was really cool. Suddenly the four of them show up on stage. But what was so interesting about that performance, and I was so lucky recently to find that somebody recorded it. I went to the Rockboat Facebook family group, and which I'm part of because I go on the Rockboat sometimes. And I said, does anybody have a recording of the 2021 performance from the Sister Hazel Sailaway set? Lo and behold, several people commented, and several were like, well, I have a clip, I have this, which was cool in itself. There's a guy that was like, here's the whole video. I recorded the whole thing. I thought it was so cool to watch that back. It was such a memory for me because I don't feel like it had my full attention because it caught me off guard. And we were standing, all the way in the back. People were talking where we were, so like I couldn't hear the whole like. But what's interesting about that performance is that it's Bobby on an acoustic guitar, and then Mikey, Andrew, and Morgan just doing vocals. So you can see that now because I'll link it in the show notes. Again, it's them just doing vocals and Bobby playing acoustic guitar, which is really interesting to me because Andrew is the piano man and to us. But of course, they're not going to drag a piano on stage for one single song during someone else's set. And that's why you can't find it on Setlist FM because it was part of someone else's set. So I just find that kind of fascinating that happened. And it's a cool memory to go back to now. So check it out.
That is really cool. Especially, if it was just Bobby on guitar and no other instrumentation, that's kind of surprising because
it still is to see it again.
Spoiler alert: there's no guitar in the song in the recording other than the guitar solo. So
okay,
it's pretty interesting.
That kind of steps up the interest level for me a little bit. Like, so he was playing the melody, the tune of it. I don't know what he was playing, but you can go back and watch the video and find out.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. He must have transcribed the guitar chords or the piano chords to guitar.
And I'm sure you guys you could probably listen to a song and play your acoustic guitar along to it, right? Like just what the sound is.
Yeah, most people can, I don't know that most, but a talented guitar player could probably listen to something played on piano and figure out how to play it on guitar.
So I don't know. It sounded good to me. It was interesting. I'll go ahead and say it. It wasn't like the greatest performance of the song or anything. Like I don't say I want to hear it that way, but it was just a cool, unique way to see it. And that's kind of what you get on some of those cruises. It's like they tend to do those things sometimes. That's like you're not going to see this anywhere else. This is just a thing that happens here. And I thought that was cool of them to do. But despite the fact that the song was released as a single at one time, it really hasn't been played as much live as the other singles. Like we've heard Paper Rain in recent years. We've heard, non-cruise times. Teenage Rockstars, probably not much. Ohio seems to be a regular in the set list. But I would say almost every time looking at Setlist FM, almost every time this song's been played live, it was on the Upside Down Flowers tour back then I guess that was 2018, 2019, I think. I don't know if you share my perspective here. Do you share my perspective as this is what I call a forgotten song in the catalog? That's kind of the way I phrased it in my notes. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I agree. Considering it was a single from the record, I'm surprised it hasn't hung around in the set list more. I will say I watched the video that you sent of it being performed on Holiday from Real in 24, and the crowd response seemed pretty subdued. So
that's a good observation, and I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, so I'd imagine that plays into it. If if it's not getting a big crowd reaction, it's probably not gonna stick around in the set. Probably gonna get cut for something else that brings a little more energy. But I'm not sure exactly why that is. My theory is I feel like this song has a little bit of an indie rock vibe to it.
Okay.
It's kind of laid back, smooth, and in a way I feel like it appeals to a wider general audience, which I think makes it a good single. But I feel like when you are looking at, people who are big Andrew fans, I think a lot of those people are coming to him for that emotional storytelling, and maybe they're not looking for this type of song from him as much that, is something that could slip into a Spotify playlist of Sunny Jams or or whatever you may say.
Jams. I could see that. I could definitely see this on a playlist of Sunny Jams, because if you don't pay too much attention to the lyrics, it just sounds like, yeah, it's like a fun summertime song. Cool.
Right.
So I think we've answered the question then. Why doesn't this song get the love that others do in the set list or from fans? But I'm just going to compare this one to Paper Rain that I mentioned earlier. Paper Rain's been performed 117 times in concert. Ohio has been played 175 times, according to Setlist FM. Both are singles off the same album. That time on the Rock Boat and even on Holiday from Real Cruise was pretty vivid for me, but I don't recall even seeing this on the Upside Down Flowers tour. It's quite possible they played it, but it's just not a memory for me, like a lot of songs. I'm sure it happened, but maybe that has to do with what you said. It's like not a song I was looking for and excited about. Do you have a specific memory of seeing this one live yourself?
I don't. I'm not sure that I have seen it live.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Pen and the Piano tour, and I think that predated this song. I don't think it was out yet at the time.
Okay. I'm not sure.
And then since then, I've been to Hello Gone Days and New Friends, and I don't think we got Blue Vacation on either of those tours.
I could say you're probably right on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I don't think I went to the Upside Down Flowers tour. I'm not sure why, but I don't recall going to any of those shows.
So yeah, there's a very good chance that you haven't. Now, is this a song that you would hope to hear? Like, you get to go on the Holiday from Real in 10 days. So, like, when you get on that boat, is this one, it's like, yeah, he should play that song?
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I'll be the one guy in the crowd that's, bringing the energy if he plays, if he plays Blue Vacation. But
okay,
yeah, I'd love to see it. I think I'm a little bit like you, and I'd like to see all the songs at some point or another. So I've never seen this one, so I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about posting this. So I put up this Instagram story a year and a half ago after the last cruise, and it was every song that was played by any of Andrew's bands or by himself on the cruise last time, and I think it was 70 songs. And so I kind of want to, like, I'm sure he's already planned a set list, right? Like, he's not going to change at this point. But I kind of want to put that up just in front of everybody to say, these are the songs that he played last time, because I think we're all hoping, just like you, like, of course there's going to be a lot of repeats. That's cool. There's a lot of I want to hear again that I haven't heard since then. But it would be cool to hear some new ones too, like some ones we haven't heard before too. So we'll see. We'll see what we get. No pressure on anybody, but like, yeah, Blue Vacation would make sense on this cruise. And I feel like if I'm going to see Blue Vacation in a set anywhere, it does make sense to see it there. Like, I'm probably not going to see that at a Andrew on a piano solo show on land, and I'm probably not going to see that at the 3 Piano show later this year. Honestly, I probably won't see it on a future Andrew Van Wilderness set in the future much, right? But of course it makes sense that he would play it on a cruise ship. Like, that fits.
Yeah. Did you respond to his Instagram post asking for deep cuts?
Good choice. Yeah, I did. You probably know what I wrote. Like, I say the same answer every time. It's okay.
You've stumped me.
It's okay. I feel like I feel like I've said this like to so many people that people are probably getting sick of me hearing it. But like, I also have this kind of like thing, unless Andrew asks. So his Instagram account asked, so I provided. But I will never say this to him. I always say "Break Myself" by Soko.
Oh. That is a good one, and now that you mention it, I have heard you talk about that before. That would be a great one to hear. We really haven't. I don't think we've ever really heard that since Soko came back.
I'm still waiting for that. I'm still waiting for my moment that I hear that song. What else did I say? So, I think I put "American Love." I might have, but I definitely put "The Dropout So Unknown" from The Glass Passenger, because I've never heard either of those two I just mentioned live. So I put one or both. I probably did several.
Nice.
What did you? Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said Orphans.
Nice. Okay. I was thinking about that today. I was like, what if he played Orphans and Kyle and I were both in the same room and he played, like, that would be so cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, it's when are you gonna get a chance to, like you said, to throw your song in the ring of what you want to hear? So I shot for the stars. We'll see if we hear Orphans.
Give us 2 minutes, Andrew. 2 minutes, Orphans, In and Out. I mean, heck, he played at the 11/11 Dear Jack show. He played Caves and Hammers and Strings and Resolution. You get everything else at the end of that album. He actually played Miss California at Columbus this last tour that I saw. So I feel like I've seen the rest of the end of that album. I'm just missing the one now.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a good choice. Was that the only one that you put in?
Yeah, I didn't want to get greedy. I just put in one.
Yeah, that's great. Like you just one and done. Like yeah, I must have went back once or twice or 3 times maybe, and I was like, hey, and this one too. Why not? Like we'll see what we get. That'll be cool. So if in case anybody listening doesn't know what we're talking about, he said which B-sides or deep cuts should I play on the cruise, and so right now on the schedule, the fourth night, it says Andrew McMahon ... as in like we don't know what it is, but he's indicated elsewhere that he might do like some deep cuts that night or like fan requests ahead of time. Like I know he's not going to be taking requests in real time. Like that's just not, I completely get it why you can't necessarily do that, but like that's kind of cool that they put that out there, and I hope they play some of those that people requested. I don't know if mine will be played, but Break Myself, it wouldn't be the appropriate environment for just Andrew on a piano anyway. But like maybe
True.
I'll get it in the Soko set.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I want to hear like the guitar. I want to hear like Andrew scream the bridge.
That would be awesome. Yeah, let's hope during the Soko set that would be something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of related. The last time I saw Butch Walker live, he was doing a thing where he left a hat out in the audience and you could write down requests and put them in the hat. And then he, in the middle of the set, he brought the hat up on stage and pulled out songs and played like 4 or 5 requests out of the hat, which was pretty cool.
That is awesome. Some artists will do that. Some artists will pull that off, and I'm amazed by it. I'm like, you don't know what you're going to get. And some of them will like honor request. I think I've actually seen Andrew do that. Like, oh, you want to hear? In rarely, but like that's impressive when an artist can do that. I'm like, I don't know how they just like pulled that out without, in theory, practicing it ahead of time. But when I saw Butch Walker at House of Blues in Cleveland, probably like 2018, 2019, he did come out into the crowd and do like some acoustic songs at the end, which was really cool. And another cool thing that you kind of reminded me of, something you said earlier reminded me of this for some reason. I'd completely forgotten that I bought 2 tickets to that show, and then my wife decided not to go. So I probably just gave it away. I don't know. I might have just given it to somebody. And that guy like chatted me afterward on, I think it was Facebook at the time. And he's like, hey, I recorded a bunch of songs from the set, and I was up in the balcony, like looking over the edge. So here, and he sent me the link to like 6 videos of like full songs as like my gift for giving him the ticket or selling it cheap. I don't remember. And so that was so cool. Like I completely forgot that those existed, but I actually have several songs from the set that I've seen on YouTube that I have access to. I got to go back and find those.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right. So, a little bit of songwriting about Blue Vacation. Admittedly, Kyle, I have some long quotes from Andrew here coming up. I just thought these were insightful enough about the subject of his song, because I think we've talked about, like, there's not a whole lot out on the internet about Blue Vacation, about Andrew's songwriting about it and like about the production. So I found a few of these quotes, the one that I gave you earlier. There's a short one here, but warning, there's a long one coming. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and we'll see where things go. So Andrew posted this quote here to describe the song on his official website the day the song was released in 2018. I'm no stranger to the subject of escapism. The desire to run when things get difficult is hardwired into my DNA. These days, I'm better at tempering the worst effects of that instinct, but the thought is alive and well in the song Blue Vacation. Running. It's a temporary fix, and the things we run from tend to find us in the end. But doesn't it sound nice sometimes? The thought of putting it all down for a minute, grabbing the people you love, and finding a beach somewhere, a place you're safe from the drip-feed dramas of the day. If you've ever had that feeling, this song is for you. Any thoughts?
I definitely hear what he's saying in the song, just wanting to disconnect from the craziness of social media and the news cycle and these catastrophes that are constantly being reported. In my opinion, there's a lot of merit to the idea of turning off all that outside noise and focusing your attention on the people you love and kind of leaning into real human connections. That seems to be something that has continued to ring true for Andrew. I saw that he's no longer using a smartphone for the most part. So,
Yeah.
this must be something that he's continued to carry and believe in.
I wish I could disconnect from social media. There was a point in time where I gave up reading the news for a long period of time. And I don't know what brought me back around. It's not good. It's not good for my brain to be checking the news websites and seeing what the latest stories are. I want to feel informed, but it's also like it's stressful. It makes me anxious. And so there's something to be said about disconnecting, like you put it, escaping, as Andrew put it, escaping to this like place where we don't have to think about that for just a little while. And that's why I felt like it was so relevant that we're going to go on this cruise with a bunch of Andrew fans. And this quote felt really relevant to that idea. It's like, it almost like could be called Andrew McMahon's Blue Vacation. He calls it the Holiday from Real, and that's a great name. But also, Blue Vacation is kind of like in a sense, the poster child for, or the advertisement for the whole event. Like it's, hey, forget what you have, your worries back home. Forget what's in the news. Come hang out with everybody on your fellow music fans on a ship, and don't think about that stuff for 4 days, and just escape with us. And we're gonna we're gonna have a pool and a hot tub, and all the food you can eat, and drinks if you're into that, and like live music all day, and like some of your favorite artists. So this quote in particular felt really relevant for what's about to happen. I don't know. So that's kind of where my head went, but it's probably the timing.
Yeah, it's timely for sure, and kind of why I'm on the fence about even buying the Wi-Fi package on the cruise, because I'm like, it might be nice to just escape for a few days. I think this message kind of hits home for me personally. Like, I try to be disciplined enough to stay off my phone in the mornings and kind of leave it in the other room as much as I can. And I feel
Smart.
like my head is so much clearer when I do that. I'm more in tune with my family, more observant, more patient. It's like a whole different frame of mind just by kind of making yourself be present in the moment and not distracted by all the noise and kind of falling into that dopamine trap of picking up your phone.
You are really selling it right now, Kyle. Like, I haven't bought the Wi-Fi package yet, and it's a heavy debate in my head for some of the same reasons you said. Yeah, it would just be nice to not have to look at my phone, not feel like I have to, because what inevitably happens on the music cruises that I've gone on that I do buy the Wi-Fi is like, I want to stay connected because it's like, oh, I want to know what's going on. Like, if something comes up, the people I know on the ship, like, oh, what's happening at this end of the ship? But then you have access to everything else too. And it's like, I don't want access to everything outside. Like, what if I could just like know what's going on right here, right now? But also there's the whole, like, as soon as you look at your phone, you're like, you can get sucked in, because that's what the apps do. That's the point of those companies, right? They want to suck you in. It would be nice to disconnect, and I completely, honestly applaud people who are able to do that. I've done that on some of the cruises. I did not do it on the last Andrew cruise, and this one remains to be seen. But I think I would love to do that for some reasons. So good for anybody who's able to.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. Pluses and minuses.
Yeah. Again, it sounds really relevant right now. There's so much division and negativity, in politics and our culture, just among people, family and friends. I mentioned workplaces earlier, schools, online, of course. You see this discourse, and it's not usually productive. Just to escape all of that would be a nice vacation. I mean, that's why we go on vacation, right? I know you do it and I do it. We do family vacations and sometimes not family vacations, like the one coming up. So because we've talked about two things here, do you see Blue Vacation as a song? Like, when you listen to the lyrics of the song, do you think of it as more of a song about rest and escape? Or do you think of it more as a response to emotional and social overload? We could argue it's both, right? But like, what is it to you when you hear this song?
I think social overload is a good way to put it. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, but I don't know. It's clear that, the best way to get people to engage on social media is to show them something that makes them angry. And,
That's true.
I think we're consistently shown content that's going to get our blood boiling and make us want to jump into the comments section. And I think it plays a significant role in people's attitudes and opinions and how divided and kind of radicalized our country is today. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a main idea behind the song of just like getting away from that trap and that external influence and just focusing on the people that are actually matter to you and are, right there in front of you and present in your life.
I think that's a really great point you just made. I think that is the most important thing. There's people in your lives who are there with you, who you either need to take care of, want to take care of, want to be with, want to be present with. We all have to remember that and try not to get sucked into and it's hard. I'm going to say it's hard. Do it myself. But like I think of it this way sometimes, and I'm not perfect, I'm nowhere near it because I, again, have the smartphone, look at the apps, all that. But like to be able to be present, I feel like as we move into the future of our lives, we're going to remember those moments, right? The moments that we didn't have the phone, the moments that the phone was down and we were enjoying the time. And I don't care whether you're talking about vacation or just simply being at home with your family or having a conversation in a coffee shop with a friend or a family member. Like, that's what is memorable. That's what's important. There's a lot of good ways the internet connects us. Find other people with the same passions that you have. That could be great. But I still feel, and there's other things too. That's just one example. But like, I still feel like there's something to be said about those moments of personal connection, human connection, that's going to be what we remember and what's important in the future of our lives, not the stuff, the extra stuff. So I think some of that is what Andrew's referring to, is just like putting that all down and like going over here to be with the people that you love. Cause like he says like literally said like a beach as an example, like go away to a beach somewhere. And again, great example, but that's the extreme. We don't all have a beach to retreat to. We're all not all going to live at the beach, but being able to like block out the noise and spend the time with the people that are important to us. Like you said, I love that. And that's where honestly, my idea that I just said came more from what you said than what was in Andrew's quote, but
yeah, and what you said, that's a really interesting way to frame it too. Like when you think about the memorable times in your life, you're thinking about the times that you were with someone in person for the most part and, making memories in the present. And I would say, I might think about, I was messaging Steve the other day on Instagram and that was fun and look back positively on that, but I'm probably never going to think back with fondness over the time I was scrolling on Facebook or whatever for 30 minutes and be like, oh, that was so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that time I saw that ad. That was, that was fun. That one that made me angry, because as you pointed out, that's kind of the intent. Yeah. I mean, we could go out on a deep rabbit hole on this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to that Cryptic Rock interview, and here's the one I was warning you about. So I have this long quote from Andrew, how he responded to a question with Jeannie from Cryptic Rock. But I really like it, and so I'm going to share the whole thing. So, hopefully you all stick along with me. The interviewer, Jeannie Blue from Cryptic Rock, asked Andrew about Blue Vacation. And by the way, it is interesting to read this interview from over 7 years ago with how things feel in the political realm like right now in 2026. But I just wanted to point that out. So she asked, you imply that the answer to all of the chaos in the world right now is to tap out, move to an island, and just live the good life. It's hardly a political song, and yet there's a gentle suggestion embedded in the lyrics about middle ground. Do you believe there are merits to being a kind of human Switzerland in times like these? So Andrew McMahon responded, I think the truth lies somewhere in between. I feel like everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off at the moment, and so encamped on their side that that's easy to do. When I'm in my own private world or with my close friends, we have much deeper conversations about our opinions on these things. The thing that I've noticed is that by taking a little bit more of a, I don't even want to say a moderated stance, but one that's almost a completely alternative stance, which is, hey, maybe we should try a little bit more peace and a little bit more love and more positivity. Let that be our approach for a second and put these wedge issues to the side and talk about what's going on in our town, in our community, and what does it mean to be a good person, rather than, what do you think about this particular issue? I've sort of found that these things to me are the things that open up people a little bit more. It's tough. You have the other side where people are like, if you don't take a stance right now, the whole world's going to fall apart. I guess I just looked at where people are taking their stands, for instance, on social media. There's nothing productive taking place on social media. Maybe there's information going out there, but there's no real conversation taking place in social media. I regularly end up looking at people's comment threads when they post their vitriolic, hyperbolic statements. The best place we can have these conversations is being a little bit more even-handed and having them with people who have differing opinions, and do it with less anger and more of a sense of empathy. But in that particular song, my whole thing was just, shoot, I don't want to pick a side right now. I just want to disappear. There are those days where I know what side I stand on in a certain sense, but I also feel like people are missing the point of actual human interaction versus this, hey, I'm going to write something really nasty for the next 5 minutes and then disappear in a corner and then author my response once I've had 30 minutes to really ruminate on how I'm seeing this person rather than actually talk to them. I live in a town where my politics differ largely from a lot of people who are around me and live near me. I have dinners with those neighbors all the time, and we have great conversations. You tend to find out, more often than not, that the things that are supposed to typify what side of the aisle you are on aren't actually the things that are most important to most people who put themselves in those camps. I just wish we could focus on the more practical aspects of our politics rather than those intentional, divisive topics. So I got a couple questions, but any general thoughts after hearing that? That was a lot.
Yeah, I think it summarizes a lot of what we've talked about already. Just, I think it's easy to kind of pigeonhole somebody by what their stance may be on certain issues and kind of see them very one-dimensionally based on that. And when you actually talk to someone in person, they might have differing viewpoints than you, but, they're a full three-dimensional human and they have, a lot of positive traits as well, even if they don't agree with your politics or whatever it may be. So I think that's probably what he's getting at here, and that follows with the message of the song.
And I'll echo a little bit of that too, and that's just that my favorite thing that he said here was about, just talking to people. Like the conversations are more productive, whether it's people you agree with or not. And I'm not saying everybody should go run and have a debate with the people that they feel like are on the opposite sides. I'm not advertising for that whatsoever. I'm just saying, like, the importance of human connection, the importance of having conversations, and just finding out who people are through that, because I feel like we get this skewed view of who people are with the online, as he called it, use part of the word that he mentioned, vitriol. There's a lot of vitriol online and a lot of toxicity, and it's easier for that to come out online. And I know we can argue, like, you can see who people are, the people who, may make those statements. But, like, also, if that didn't exist, if you couldn't see any of that, I think we would just have conversations. And I think that's some of what he's saying, maybe.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that it's easy to say from behind a keyboard that you probably wouldn't say if you were standing face to face with somebody.
Right. I've tried to temper when I start to type things, I've started to think, I have for years, but like, I don't always get it right, but I do have that thought in my head sometimes. I'm like, would I say this to this person if I was in person? And I don't know, this may be touching back to something we've already talked about, but because he talks about people and community and connection, or is it really just like escape or shutting off the noise song? I don't know. What do you think?
He's kind of inviting the people that he loves, his family, let's buy a private island. Let's, go and be together and, have this communal experience. It's not just him running away by himself.
That's true. That's a good point.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of where it walks that line of just We're spending so much mental and emotional bandwidth on strangers and headlines that don't directly affect, our family or our community. And, let's just remove ourselves from all of it and go sit on the beach.
Compared to 2018, do these lyrics feel different to you now?
I feel like they're almost more relevant than they were in 2018.
Hard agree.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been more kind of divided than we are now. And
No, not in my lifetime.
I probably would have said the same thing in 2018, but I feel like it's worse in 2026.
This is feeling pretty relevant to me for all the reasons we talked about, right? Let's talk about the sound of the song a little bit. So earlier I talked about the comparison between this song and the rest of the Upside Down Flowers album. For you, Kyle, how does this song fit on the album? Because I stated some opinions earlier. I don't know if I gave you a chance to express that, so I want to give you some time for that.
I thought this was an interesting question, and so I listened to Upside Down Flowers yesterday on the way to work.
Okay.
And it's actually I find this song to be very similar to the sound of the rest of the album.
Okay.
I feel like the record has a very strong sonic identity, and we talked about the way Andrew's voice is produced.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a through line through the whole album. Mm-hmm. But also the instrumentation, I feel like, is quite similar through the whole album. And it sounds like from the quotes we heard from Andrew that it sounds like all these songs potentially started with just vocals and piano.
Right.
And then Butch added the extra instrumentation on top of that. But it's really most of the songs are piano, vocals, and then drums and bass are kind of like the four main instruments. There's some strings thrown in here and there, some synthesizers thrown in here and there. I was surprised. I mentioned earlier that there's no guitar in Blue Vacation other than the solo.
I never would have put my finger on that.
And it's something that I really didn't notice until I listened to the whole album yesterday. Okay. And I was like, I noticed it on Blue Vacation, but it's through the whole album. Like, there's very little guitar on this record. There's a couple songs that have some like acoustic guitar that's like very low in the mix. It's like kind of just adding texture. Like, I hear the sound of the strings being strummed, but it's not even really loud enough in the mix to hear the notes that are being played. But yeah, this song is piano, vocals, drums, bass, a little bit of strings, and a guitar solo, and I think that pretty much fits the sound of the rest of the album. It's a lot of that kind of sonic palette is pretty runs through the whole record.
So you said that there's no guitars in this song, but it definitely sounds like there's guitars at some point, like that. Like that is guitar, right?
Yes, yeah, that's the guitar solo.
Okay.
But yeah, I was surprised. I mean, if I had to guess without listening to the song, I would have said like, yeah, this song has guitars. There's got to be some guitars playing in the chorus, but I don't hear any. I just hear bass and drums along with his piano, and that's really it for most of the song.
Okay. As I feel like I say on the show a lot, now I got to go back and listen to it and listen for that no guitar at other points. But that's something that I learned by doing this podcast about his first Wilderness album, is that there's hardly any guitars on the first album for the Wilderness.
That makes sense to me. That one's more, it's more synth heavy, and I guess, if you have enough synths layered, probably don't need guitars to fill out the sound, and I feel like that's probably what was going on that first Wilderness record. But yeah, I'd have to go back to that one too to confirm that. I haven't listened to that in a little while, but I've never listened to it, kind of listening for guitars or the absence thereof.
I don't have the technical ear for it, but like I just noticed in the liner notes years ago and brought it up here, and I was like, yeah, that is strange to me, because I always thought and I'll echo it for Upside Down Flowers that we're talking about today. It's like, yeah, I've always thought of these as like full band sounding albums, but like guitar is always that, like, to me, the essential. If we're talking about a quote full band, we have guitar. But interesting. I'm learning things all the time here. There are a lot of interesting sounds on this track. So since we're talking about the sound, are there? I don't know. And we've talked about this before, like with VHS. We talked about like pop songs and like special effects, and like Is that happening here too? Are they throwing like random synth sounds? Are you hearing any of that here in this song? Because I feel like it's more of a more traditional rock track comparatively to like Zombies or Tilt.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of bare bones. So you've got piano through the whole song. You've got drums through the whole song. One thing I noticed that I hadn't really noticed before is that the drum beat is almost exactly the same the entire song. Like the drums like never change, even in the chorus.
Okay.
They add a beat. So yeah, in the verses you get do do da do 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 da, and then it like breaks before it comes back. So like there's one beat missing at the end of the phrase, and then in the chorus they like fill in that gap at the end. So it's do do
Yeah.
da do 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 da do. So it's just that like last beat they add in. It's basically the exact same drum beat the whole time. You get they have a little space in the verse that's filled in the chorus, but it's almost identical.
I don't think I ever would have thought of that on my own, but I think it's really easy to hear in my brain right now that you've said that about it. It's like, yeah, that is the same drum beat over and over again.
It sounds to me like a track where Butch was probably trying to stay out of Andrew's way to an extent. Like, like it felt like the vocals and the piano was enough to carry the song, and he didn't have to do.
Okay, like it didn't need it. It didn't need the creative, a creative drum beat.
It probably needed a beat that went with the song, and it kind of worked the whole way through, and it didn't need anything fancy. And
There you go. That's a better way to put it. Anything, yeah, like it needed a beat. It needed a creative beat maybe, but it didn't need anything extra.
yeah, clearly they didn't think it needed guitar other than the guitar solo, and
Yeah.
and there's some cool bass on it. The bass is pretty, the bass is moving around a little bit and giving it that low end, which is kind of neat. But yeah, not really. And there are some strings. So in the bridge and in the outro of the song, you get some strings, which sound to me like they're probably like synth strings. I don't think it's like a live violin player or anything. It sounds like it's just a synth string they're using there in the bridge and in the outro. The only other thing I heard in the way of sound effects, which is it's a little silly, but I think it's like right before the first two choruses, there's this little synth note that kind of sounds like a person saying bow. It's like right at the beat, right when the chorus starts. I guess yeah, it's kind of easy to miss, but yeah, I guess it's the
I
kind
definitely
of
missed that.
it's the kind of thing a producer will throw in if he just needs like one extra element to say like, hey, here's the chorus. And yeah, I guess they needed a little something, and so they've got this little bow right before the chorus starts.
Interesting. Okay. No, I probably noticed it at some point, but it's not coming to me right now. It's always interesting to me to talk about how these songs are kind of how they're fleshed out and how, like I said earlier, as far as I know, Andrew wrote it on a piano. As you mentioned, he does the piano vocals. And then, we talked about how Butch Walker fleshes out the rest. And there's these times when like he'll add in a guitar solo, and that's pretty important to the sound of the song to us now. But then like there's this back drum beat happening in the background, which doesn't feel that significant, but we would definitely notice if it wasn't there. So that kind of stuff is fascinating to me. It always has been. But it probably harkens back to like for you as a musician and what you're doing, the process you're going through right now. You probably think about those things all the time.
It's interesting because I was a little bit of a late bloomer in music, and so I had a long time of just listening to music without kind of a musician's ear. And I think that's still my default, is just kind of listening to it and enjoying what it is and how it makes me feel. And I don't automatically go to dissecting the song usually. Right now I'm kind of so deep into the mixing process that it's hard to listen to a song and not listen a little bit to how that mix sounds and what they're doing. But it's like a lot of things where if you're kind of tuning into it and really listening for it, you can pick it apart, and otherwise you just can kind of enjoy it at face value. But it's always interesting. I mean, every time I come on and talk to you. I always find it fascinating, listening to these songs with kind of that critical ear and trying to pick apart exactly what all is going on in the song and in the recording. And I always figure out things that I never would have noticed, like the fact that there's no guitar in the in the verses and choruses of the song.
And I appreciate you coming on here and digging into these things, helping me understand, because it's things that it's very hard for me to notice. It's just I don't have that ear for it. On the times that you do take the occasion to do so, it's probably more top of mind for you, at least. Like it's just, you notice that, and I know we've talked about this before, like you notice probably different instruments, whereas someone like myself wouldn't. It's just like, I don't know, it all sounds like music, man. Like, yeah, just a little bit of a different perspective, just because of where I come from and what I don't know.
There's something to be said for that.
And yeah, I'm okay with it too. So, but it's definitely something I noticed when I started this podcast. It's like, oh, there's a lot of things I don't notice in music. Probably a good thing usually as someone who just consumes. You ready to talk lyrics?
Sure. Let's do it.
Well, I mentioned earlier, so I wanted to say this now. So you shared your new song that you're working on mixing, that I think you finished mixing, called Carolina, with me recently. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I interpreted some of your lyrics to Carolina as like a place that you escape, or a place that the songwriter escapes to. And so that's where I was going to draw the parallel, is that I don't get a darkness out of it. I get quite a bright light out of actually that song that you sent me. So that's a little bit different, because I would say there's a little bit of a darkness to Blue Vacation. But what I do hear and notice in the lyrics is like there's this like place that someone can go to escape the noise. And that's what I found. And you said it in a much different way than Andrew did, but like I kind of like that. And I don't know if that's where that was where I was going earlier, Kyle. Is like I don't know if that was intentional to like share that song with me.
That was not intentional, but yeah, that is a very thoughtful parallel that I didn't really think about at all, but I agree. Yeah, I think, yeah, the song, it is, Carolina does represent kind of a place that is romanticized in my head, and it's somewhere my family would vacation growing up. A lot of nostalgic, core memories and relaxation, carefree mindset. Those are the things that come to mind when I think of Carolina and the summers that I spent there, and that definitely influenced the song. So yeah, I would say you're right on the money with that, and it wasn't even something that was on my mind at all.
Yeah, and I actually didn't think so, because like you said earlier, it was just that happens to be the song you're working on right now and the one you finished mastering. So again, thanks for sharing that with me, but I just thought that was a cool coincidence. It's like, wow, we're kind of talking about similar themes, at least, if nothing else. So
yeah, that's really neat. Thanks for thanks for drawing that comparison.
Regarding the lyrics on Blue Vacation, I don't see a whole lot of lyrics here in general, and I'm looking at words on a page when I say that. There's not as many lyrics if you just read through the words. But I do, and I'm going to touch back to what I said a moment ago, like I do feel like there's some pretty dark and grim lyrics here, though, in a sense. I've mentioned this part on the show before, but Andrew doesn't drop too many F-bombs in his music. Occasionally, we know there's like very famous parts of his songs that he does, but it's not that common, actually. But it seems like he saves them for special occasions, like this one. So he really means it when he says it. So unlike some artists where it's just everywhere, and that's fine too. But I want you to know I relate to this first verse in a very specific way, and I've said this for years. I think, and this is hearkening back to something I said earlier, but I just think our general anxiety as a culture, as a population, is increasing. I just don't think our brains are meant to take this much in. So when I said earlier, like it's all coming at us all at once, that's what I was referencing. I think truly we have trouble processing it all, and we need to just shut it off sometimes. He references the news, he references celebrities, probably the president, reference to the president, and that he needs medicated just to deal with it all. We have two different pre-choruses that come after each verse, and that is, oh my God, I think they poisoned the water, just need a place to raise my daughter. And then the other one is, oh my God, I think I'm going to go crazy. They're picking sides, but I'm just too lazy. Just kind of a funny line. Do you have any thoughts about those lines?
Yeah, I mean, those are probably some of the catchier parts of the
Yeah.
song, those pre-choruses, and they summarize, I think, the message of the song pretty well. Like, I just need a a safe place to raise my child where I'm not being inundated with madness. And yeah, I mean, I think I can relate to that, or like what kind of culture are we raising our kids into? We're both parents, and it's something that you
Hmm.
think about. But
For sure.
and picking sides, but I'm just too lazy. I think that kind of goes back to what Andrew said about we don't need to be so divided. I don't necessarily want to take a stand on one side or another. I just want to kind of bow out from this battle for a little while and focus on something else, and focus on the people that I love.
Yeah, I think he makes it really personal. And I think anyone who follows Andrew, I think we feel this way. It feels very personal when he references a family member in particular. I think it really resonates with us. It's like, oh, he said his daughter. Like we know who his daughter is, if we follow Andrew. So when I hear just to need a place to raise my daughter, I can picture her, right? Just because she's been on stage with him and whatnot. That's the most important like part of this lyric for me. The two lines that I read is that the most important thing to him is keeping his daughters safe, with which you referenced to, and I know that we can both identify that we both have daughters. So like maybe even more poignant to us in particular. It's like I yeah I just need a place to raise my daughters. So that makes perfect sense to me. Are there any lyrics that are like especially, I don't know, relevant to you, or like anything that jumps out at you in this song besides the ones that I just stated?
The lyrics are not real subtle or really metaphorical too much in this song. Like, I think
Not
they're
much. Yeah.
pretty plain spoken. They say exactly what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, dropping the F bomb in the first line of the song is a pretty attention grabbing way to kick it
Right.
off. Yeah, a lot of the lines, like, he says, like, "Doctor, cure my new disease, fill up my prescription, please." I'm not sure if that's more of a personal statement of like, I'm gonna need medication to deal with all this stuff, or if it's more of like a
Mm-hmm.
social commentary on, like, seems like it's becoming more and more common to diagnose and medicate everything rather than finding a coping mechanism or what have you. So a lot of these lyrics are pretty interesting, and I feel like we probably know who he's referring to with the "Emperor's a clown" line.
That's right. It's the emperor, not I said president, but yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I laid that clear. What I think that part is referencing. I think the chorus here is like a fantasy land. Let's buy a private island, get high, and keep on driving. Let's try some time and patience. I'm gonna take you on a blue vacation. It's all like peace, love, happiness, just the things that you don't have to think about because you're just you're in relax mode now. I just feel like the chorus is the fantasy, whereas the verses are the things that he's trying to escape.
Yeah, I like the line, "Let's try some time and patience." I think that's a little bit of a mission statement for the song. Like, let's take a step back, think before we talk, think before we act, have a little patience and understanding for one another. I think that captures the thesis statement of the song pretty well.
I agree. That's a good line. It's not probably one that people go to most often first in this, but I think it is a good line. You're right. It's a good mission statement. I like the way you put that. So then we get to the bridge. So he sounds so overwhelmed to me here. I think the lyrics, the way he sings it, and then we talked a lot about the guitar solo, but I feel like it matches the feeling of the way he sings the bridge, or the frustration that he's expressing. It does a good job of like following the feeling that he's trying to illustrate here. So, is it me, or is this room spinning? I can't seem to turn it off. Is it me, or is this room spinning? Someone tell me when it stops. I guess what you give is what you got. I think it's cool what they do there with the music to match the bridge there.
Yeah, the bridge is really interesting. It's definitely the part of the song that changes sound the most. I think everything pretty much drops out, and you've got those like string samples that are playing, and "Is it me, or is this room spinning?" I really like how they put that bridge together, how it gets pretty quiet and sparse, and then you start getting the guitar or the piano kind of building back in there when he says, I guess what you give is what you got, which I feel like that's maybe like a golden rule kind of message.
Yeah.
Like you get what you give.
Yeah.
And then, kind of going from that very sparse section of the bridge and then kind of ramping the energy back up into the guitar solo. That might be my favorite part of the song, just that energy jump there, and that kind of off-kilter guitar solo.
Well, what do you know? That's exactly what I had written down, my favorite part of the song. Right? Exactly what you just said. I feel like it does something there to the song. It like, and maybe that was the whole intent, right? Like you said earlier, there's no guitar up until that point in the bridge. And so it's almost like it adds something exciting and new for the listener. And that's probably why it impacts us so much. It's like, oh, like that's to me the most memorable part of the song. And now I know why, which I did not know before the conversation, why it was so memorable.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, introducing a whole new instrument. Like, there's no guitar in this song, but here's a guitar solo coming out of this real quiet section. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it just reminds me that we're listening to a rock song on a rock album made by guys that like rock and roll, which I didn't notice the no guitar prior to that, but like it's like our reminder that just drops in the middle there. And it may sound cheesy what I just said, but like I appreciated when these two guys came together and made an album. I think they did something real special, and I'm not opposed to them doing the same again in the future. Like if Butch produced another album by Andrew, I think they could make some real magic. But it's like clear that they're both very passionate about music, and I just think they did something interesting there. And it is, again, it is my favorite part and most memorable part of the song, what you just described.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if that sentiment would be shared by a lot of people. I feel like Upside Down Flowers is a little bit of like the black sheep in his discography, it seems to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't hear people talk too much about that album, and I feel like not a whole lot of those songs are sticking around in the set list. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of an underappreciated part of his career, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this song. I feel like we need some more love for Upside Down Flowers.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did bring it to the podcast, because I agree. Obviously, I want to talk about every song eventually. If that's the goal, I wouldn't be shocked if there was another song coming up very soon. And I'm saying this because I really don't know. There's another person like yourself who we've chatted in recent months, and maybe they'll come and do another Upside Down Flowers track. So there's a chance we might get 3 Upside Down Flowers tracks within the first 3 months of this year on this podcast. So that would be kind of cool, I think, to kind of, again, I think we need to catch up on this album a little bit and bring it back around.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know how much you pay attention to this, but I feel like if I was in your shoes, I'd be afraid of like leaving too much of one album to the end. Like, oh, I've finished these other 5 albums and I still have 6 songs to cover from Upside Down Flowers, and
Similar, but kind of the opposite concern is like, oh, I've just about finished everything in transit. It's going to feel uneven toward the end, right? Because like,
yeah,
there's not going to be all these transit tracks mixed in.
Yep.
There's still the B-sides. Still got the transit B-sides era to mix in. Some of those anyway. Just a couple left. Some of those same thoughts. I get it. I mentioned that, when I think about other versions of the song, I mentioned this earlier, I just go back to that Rock Boat performance. Like, I don't know that we'll ever see this performed on only an acoustic guitar again, and I'm good with that. Like, it feels like a good, full band song or even a piano song, not necessarily an acoustic guitar song, but it's just something different, and I'll post that link in the show notes. But I would just want to mention the music video here before we wrap up. Did you have a chance to watch the music video? Had you seen that before?
I hadn't. I don't think I even realized there was a music video, but I watched it last night. I thought it was pretty interesting. It looks like it was shot probably at the same place and the same time as the album cover.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same people that are in the album cover. They're wearing the same clothes. I thought it was cool to see Kelly and Cecilia there, in the video. They're obviously on the album cover too.
That was cool. It's almost like they were actors in the video, because they're trying to portray a family, right? In the video, is that what it feels like?
Yeah, it feels like that to me. Yeah.
And I say that like Kelly and Cecilia are his family, but there are other people in the picture and like all sitting. They're like posing for a photo, like a big extended family. So it's kind of weird to me. So I had this thought. I was watching it late at night when I actually the first time I sat down more recently. I had seen it before years ago, but more recently when I sat down to actually think about the video, it was kind of later at night, and I got this weird vibe, kind of like when you used to come across like random movies or shows late at night when you were young on TV as you're flipping through channels, and you're like, what is this? And that was kind of the vibe I got from this video, but I don't know if it was just the timing. It just had this like weird, like, I couldn't even describe the feeling of the video. I don't know.
The way that it's put together, I mean, they use that old kind of reel-to-reel style footage.
Yeah, like 8mm film it looks like, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like it kind of fits with the sound of the track, kind of like dreamy, kind of washed out. But yeah, there's a little bit of like almost creepiness to it too, where you're
Yes.
watching this scene and these pictures through this hazy old film. And the one thing I did take note of was there's like an older guy, and they show him a couple of times just like laughing maniacally. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the story is with that, but it's kind of unsettling, but kind of like comic relief too.
Unsettling is a good word for it, because that's how I described the video. I just didn't know what to do with it. My brain didn't know what to do with it. Unsettling is a great description of not just the guy maniacally laughing, but I think the whole video in general, for me at least.
It's got a little bit a little bit off kilter, but it was an interesting video, at least something that you'll remember rather than kind of just watching once and then never thinking about again.
Correct. Yeah, I'd agree. My friends and I used to shoot movies when we were teenagers, and one of my good friends, who I'm still friends with to this day, Mike, he had some Super 8mm cameras and 8mm cameras, and he would buy film, and it was very expensive, and it's probably even more expensive now, but this was 25, 30 years ago. And he would like go to like the film store and buy like the reel-to-reel film and like load it in this camera, and we have these little videos of or not video, they're film, this film of us back then, and it was in the 90s when I was growing up, but like it looks like it's much older. So if someone were to look at that now, they'd be like, what is this, the 70s? Like, but he brought it on a day to school in the year we graduated high school, and it's so interesting to watch. I don't know. We didn't have smartphones. We had VHS cameras. We had like other tape cameras you could use, so it's not like that stuff didn't exist. But it just looks different through the lens of like a Super 8 camera, just like this video we're talking about. It just makes things look like grittier and like weird, and so we have like, basically he did like these reels were like 3 minutes long. So it was like 3 minutes of us at high school in the hallways and things on one of the last days of school our senior year. It's interesting to go back and look at that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
Do you still have that?
I have access to it, so I think he probably has it on YouTube and under a link that we can access, because I know I've seen it more recently. But there's a lot of that stuff was lost, but we do have access to some of it, and he's still around, and he's pretty tech savvy. So like sometimes he'll send us things and be like, "Hey, remember this one?" So, or like put it on YouTube and then link it. But we don't hook up the reel to reel and like watch it at his house or anything. Like It's been converted.
Sure,
I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, I feel like go back to the music video just for a second. I feel like the music video actually makes this song feel weirder and darker than it really is. I got a little bit more of that darker impression once I watched the music video. So for what it's worth.
I think if you listen to the song by itself, it sounds pretty sunny and carefree on its face, especially if you're not paying close attention to the lyrics. But the video gives it a little bit of a darker tone.
You kind of touched on this earlier, Kyle, but wrapping up here. So is that why you picked the song? Because you feel like this era need a little bit more love, or like it was something that you don't want people to forget about?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I really enjoy the song. It's probably my favorite track on Upside Down Flowers, and I love that album, and I feel like it's pretty underappreciated. So I'm a fan of the underdog, and I like to to bring usually like to discuss the songs that are a little more left of center when I come talk to you.
Well, you certainly have. There's no doubt about it. Last time we talked about a quick review. Last time we talked about VHS, which was technically a single, but I do feel like there was some really interesting things about that kind of stood aside some of those other singles that he released there. And then Orphans was obviously like a definitely more out there track for even on the Glass Passenger, which we covered pretty well on that episode. So I'd recommend people go back and listen to those two episodes that we talked about that, because there's some great conversations like we've had tonight. So I want to thank everybody for listening out there, and thank you, Kyle, for coming to the show, talking with me again. We've Zoomed now, we've chatted online, and I'm hoping we're gonna meet in person real soon, right? Like, I'm gonna see you on a ship in Miami. So
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
that's awesome. I'm so glad. I was honestly so glad to hear that you're going on the ship, and I hope you have a blast. I'm definitely hoping we get to join some shows together.
Me too. Yeah, I'd love to. I think even if we were in the middle of a field somewhere, if there was music playing all day, I'd be happy. So the fact that we get to watch live music all day and also be on a cruise ship and eating whatever we want, that's sounds like the best possible scenario.
Right. Agree on all accounts. Remind us of the best place to check out your music. We can find it on the streaming networks, right?
Yes. Any streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube Music, whatever you use, you can find Patterns and Traffic there. All my original stuff. I have 2 albums and an EP that I've released so far, and my new album will eventually be up there. And
Late 2026, I'm hearing, right?
I'm gonna be optimistic and say summer 26. I'm hoping we're not getting into late 26.
Okay. I was giving you a little leeway there.
Yeah, I don't want to take it. I need to hold myself accountable.
All right.
But yeah, I'm not good at posting on social media, but in the lead up to the album, I will definitely be posting on Instagram. So Patterns and Traffic on Instagram would be the place to look for updates. So I'll be revealing release dates and track lists and album titles and cover art and all that fun stuff that I get to share in the lead up to the release. So yeah, find me on Instagram if you're interested in that.
That's awesome. I think everybody should. And I don't want anybody to forget either that you have another project called Harsh Lights, more of like a pop punk sound to that one. And very interesting. You work with somebody overseas, right, to put that together.
That's right. Yeah. I work with my bandmate Eva in the Netherlands, and we do that. We haven't been actively working on anything since our last album came out, but we have been talking a little bit about trying to get something together for 26. So we'll eventually get back to it and get some more music out. But Patterns and Traffic is the current focus.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Look forward to the new Patterns and Traffic later this year. That'll be awesome. So I'm again honored to have gotten a sneak preview of your new track. That was fun to listen to and even touch on a little bit in today's episode. I'll go ahead and end with a quote that reminds me of how I feel a lot of the time lately in this crazy world we live in that we've referenced a lot tonight. Is it me or is this room spinning? I can't seem to turn it off. Is it me or is this room spinning? Someone tell me when it stops.